And we are back to the third segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, where I'm going to be doing something a little bit different, as I mentioned before in the previous segment, where I talk about the games that are going to be happening tonight and my picks for these games and who I think is going to win, how I think the game is going to be played out, etc., etc. So I'm just going to pull up my phone real quick and look at the games that are happening today. So the Knicks are matching up against Indiana in Madison Square Garden. The Lakers are going over to Boston and playing against the Boston Celtics. Cleveland is going over to Memphis, playing the Grizzlies. And the Sixers are going to go up against the Utah Jazz at Utah. So first, I should point out that Cleveland is going to be coming off of a back-to-back game. So the odds of them winning this one might not be like as high as they should, but because they are the Cavs and because the Memphis Grizzlies don't have Ja Morant on the team anymore, I feel like the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to end up winning this game towards the end of it. And not entirely sure about Philly. Speaking of Philly, we'll get an update on Joel Embiid soon, within 24 hours. The NBA said we still have no idea, the status of Joel Embiid and his injury, how severe it is, and how many games he will miss. If Philly played the way that they played in the last game against Golden State, I think they could win in this game against the Jazz. Now, the Jazz are a relatively mid team. They are not the best team. So that means they are beatable. So it could be a close one, depending on how the bench plays. I feel like the bench is going to respond well after Joel Embiid's injury. It's going to respond in a positive way. Kendrick Perkins, again, suggested to deactivate Joel Embiid for the entire season. And as much as I don't like Embiid, I don't think I'd say for the whole season. Maybe just before playoffs, just to avoid him getting injured yet again. But what really strikes me is it's how often this happens and how often he gets injured. It's insane to me, but I just can't. He always, and I think it has something to do with how he spends half of the time falling onto the ground and getting fouled. With someone as tall as him, that's not something that you could afford to do all the time and expect to not be injury prone. The bigger an object is, the harder it's going to fall. He gets injured every single postseason as well. And I feel like part of it is because of his play style and constantly falling on the floor and asking for calls and getting all that type of stuff. It all plays into his injuries. They just happen they happen so often. Now, let's talk about the next matchup, where it's the Knicks and the Pacers. The Knicks and the Pacers actually are the first teams to go on, along with the Lakers and the Boston Celtics. I'll talk about the Celtics later. And they match up in Madison Square Garden. I think the Knicks have a good balance of defense and offense to be able to keep up with the Pacers. I know that the Pacers, they're the best offensive team in the league right now. They have a really fast pace. Tyrese Halliburton is back. However, they play in Madison Square Garden, and I think this has a potential to be. Now, obviously, the Knicks have home court advantage when they're in Madison Square Garden, and the crowd is always behind the Knicks. So I feel with that in mind, and with the matchups and the postseason implications, this is going to be one of the best games of the week. The Knicks are a great team now with the 3 seed, and the Pacers are another good team and another very well-hyped team. They're the 6th seed. So this is literally a playoff game, or a little sneak peek of a playoff game. I personally think that the Knicks are going to end up coming out on top. Jalen Brunson, I feel like he's going to go off for a game, even though that the Knicks don't have Julius Randle. Again, like I said before, I don't think that necessarily hurts the team all that much. I feel like Jalen Brunson, along with the rest of the squad, can pull through in these games, like how they've pulled through in all the other games without Julius Randle. And Jalen Brunson's a great leader. OG Anunoby, great defender, great piece to the team. And I feel like all of these, when you take all of these factors in mind, and Tyrese Halliburton recently coming off of an injury, how some of these players don't tend to be 100% post-injury, I feel like these Knicks are going to end up making a lot of noise in this game, and they're going to end up coming out on top. And the fans, they better be loud. Like, let me tell you, these fans, they better be loud and proud, because this is like playoff basketball. This is a playoffs matchup. I always like these matchups that like give us a little sneak peek of like what to expect in these games, and we'll see how Pascal Siakam is able to respond in this game. They've been, since the trade, they've been a little bit up and down, but at the same time, I don't want to like scrutinize them on that too much, simply because Tyrese Halliburton has missed a lot of games. So I feel like it would be relatively unfair doing that to the Indiana Pacers, just because like it's not fair. It's not something, they didn't have their best player, so it's like it makes sense how like, and on top of trading some of their players to get the Raptors star player in Pascal Siakam, chemistry issues are going to be a thing, and not having your best player to help you win those chemistry issues, it all boils down, and it all trickles into one effect, in my opinion. Now, Boston plays the Lakers at home. As you already know, the Lakers, they're terrible, and the Boston Celtics are going to absolutely blow these guys out of the water. I have no faith in the Lakers with this team, with Darvin Ham. I have no faith in them winning this game whatsoever. Absolutely none. They don't nearly have enough firepower on defense to be able to beat them at their home court. They don't nearly have the amount of firepower on offense to be able to match any of those players in their own home court. I'm not sure if AD is going to play in this game. His injury status is questionable. He sat out the last one due to hip and Achilles, quote unquote, issues, whatever that means. So if he sits out in this game, there's absolutely no hope for the Lakers whatsoever. And like, again, like you'd have to expect a straight up masterful performance from LeBron James. And even then, I still think this is going to be one of those games where he scores 60 or like 50 and has a triple-double, and he loses. So, again, as you know, like the Boston Celtics, they're the best team in the East right now, and with Milwaukee struggling, I actually think now that they are at the favorites in the East and the ones that will come out and make it all the way to the finals, given recent news and how the Bucks have been playing and the Bucks head coach. So, with that in mind, I don't think they're going to be losing to the Lakers. I mean, LeBron is going to try all he can. And Darvin Ham is just going to run a lineup that's just going to mess everything up for him. It's common. It happens every single time. And right now for the Lakers, like if you're a Laker fan, you're just waiting for Darvin Ham to get fired, or you're just waiting for a big trade to happen. And that's sort of like the only hope that the Lakers have in order to salvage this season, because it cannot be that 6 years of prime LeBron, and they only have 3 playoff appearances to show for it. That is absolutely inexcusable. Yes, I say only 3 because that is inexcusable. Every single team that LeBron has played with has made the playoffs, not counting the first 2 years when he was a rookie and a sophomore. If you want to count those 2 years, then whatever, but that's just ridiculous. That's just ridiculous expectations from a rookie and a sophomore on a Cleveland Cavaliers team. Now, as I mentioned before, the Cavs play the Memphis Grizzlies going into this game. Now, the Cavs should easily win this game, despite being away and despite playing back-to-back games. I have a feeling that they're going to end up winning this game in the end, simply because that they are the better team, and now that they have Darius Garland out there, they have much more production offensively, so they're able to cancel out any sort of offensive production that the Grizzlies are going to have. And another advantage that Cleveland has in this game is the fact that their best player, Ja Morant, is out for the season again. So he's not suspended, just out due to surgery, an injury. And because of this, the Memphis Grizzlies are not in a spot to compete in the Western Conference. I'm going to just go ahead and pull up the standings real quick just so I can make sure that the Grizzlies right now are 18-29, and they stand. Where do they stand? Yep, they stand 13th in the Western Conference. So bottom feeder, one of the worst teams in the West. And when you are playing in the West, and like all the other teams that are above them are almost identical in record. Their records are so close to each other. It's it's pretty funny. Like it happens every single year with the East and the West. It's always like the East is going to have like just two teams that are just dominant, and then the West is going to have everyone that's dominant. But I will say that it hasn't really happened this year because the Knicks and the Sixers, when they had Embiid, they have been dominant, and they've shown that they've been dominant, and they've shown that the Eastern Conference is now a pretty legitimate conference. Like before, the Eastern Conference used to get clowned because like, oh, East versus West. West is always better. West has all of these stars, and East has like these stars. Like there's been an argument going on for a long time, but I personally think that the East right now it's way more competitive than it was before, and these teams and the fact that the Knicks are even competing is just unbelievable to me. Like that is some news that I never thought I would hear ever in my life. It's really it's something to be amazed. Like just to be in New York, just to be like, well, not a really New Yorker. You guys know I'm from Jersey, but just to be like a relative in that spot, like in that local area, and having teams like represent you, like that's always a great feeling. And like I hope all of you sports fans can feel that feeling eventually, unless you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, and with that, I hope you never feel that feeling whatsoever. And but not talking about football. Let's talk more about basketball. About this Lakers game. Like, how do I think it's going to play out? Well, I feel like LeBron is going to he's going to end the game with a triple double. I have a strong feeling that he's going to end the game putting up ridiculous numbers, and Austin Reeves isn't going to show up as he typically does. D'Angelo Russell, I feel like maybe D'Angelo Russell is going to have a game tonight, given as he just had one bad one recently. He's going to want to step up in this next one. And let me think. Let's see if Roy Hachimura can actually play 20-plus minutes in this game. I personally don't think he's going to play 20 minutes with how Darvin Ham handles his rotations. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. But on more like about like the Knicks and their matchups against like the Pacers. The Pacers, they run like a really, really fast offense. Like their offense is quick. It is lightning quick. And the Knicks, like with the team that they have and like the team that's structured around them, their defense, Jalen Brunson, I'm not saying that Jalen Brunson is a good defender. That's a matchup that I'm actually kind of scared about, Jalen Brunson on Tyrese. Hopefully that won't happen. Hopefully they won't put the smallest player on the court against the best player on the court. But if that matchup ever does happen, like, and he's stuck on an island with that, I would be legitimately scared because Jalen Brunson, being the shortest player on the court, his defense is kind of lacking, and he has to produce offensively, which he does. He's very consistent on the offensive side of the ball, which is what I really like about him and why he is a Villanova legend. But with the addition of OG Anunoby, I have a feeling that the coach is going to put OG on Tyrese simply to slow Tyrese down and his playmaking abilities. OG Anunoby is like his frame is relatively wide, and he has long arms, and he's a taller defender. Well, he's a taller player than Tyrese. He's much more of a problem to try and get around, in my personal opinion. When you have a defender that's like straight up bigger than you, it's much more difficult to like shoot over them. It is a little bit easier to like potentially blow by them if like they have way too much size on you, but OG Anunoby, like he's quick on his feet, he's very versatile, so I have a feeling that the coach is going to try and set that matchup up for him and constantly have OG on Tyrese. If they do that, I feel like they could end up winning this game, assuming Tyrese just doesn't go off on OG, because OG has had several instances where several players he's defending just goes off on him for some reason, and I have no idea why. Even it looks like he's playing good defense, but they just go off on him. And so we are out of time for this third segment. We are going to go into the surprise fourth segment where we talk about, is the 65 game requirement a good addition to the league and its award system? So tune in after this short break. I'll be right back.